Let's bring in Simon Rosenberg, a former campaign advisor for President Bill Clinton, along with Larry O'Connor, the host of Mornings on the Mall at WMAL in Washington. Gentlemen, good afternoon. I want to be nonpartisan here, and I want to take a look at who would do the best job of actually solving this problem. Larry, let's start with you.
Well, listen, one person is not going to solve this problem. We need to have a coordinated strategy, not just here in America, but also with our NATO allies. And that's why I'm so troubled, actually, by President Obama deciding to spend 51 seconds talking about this in Cuba and then going to a baseball game with a communist dictator who once supported terrorism in the past. He should be back here in America, sending a strong signal to our allies in Western Europe. Hillary Clinton's got a real problem here because she's trying to run an experience, so that begs the question, what kind of experience was that? And her experience as Secretary of State was overseeing the Arab Spring, the lack of American response, the feckless response to it, and the disintegration of the Middle East, which led to the cesspool that we're seeing right now. One other problem here, she also embraces the president's refugee and open borders policy, and we're seeing that reap this kind of violence right now in Western Europe because they have the same kind of policies. I think they're vulnerable on this.
Let me bring Simon in here. Hillary Clinton said earlier today on another network, she said, quote, "It's unrealistic to say we're going to completely shut down our borders if something like this were to take place in the United States." Simon, how do you respond to that? Does that seem like a good solution on her part?
Well, first of all, I have many friends in Europe and have spent a lot of time there in the last year, and I just want to say that my thoughts and prayers are with the people of Europe. These are tough times, and I think, as I want to agree with something that Larry said, that I think it's going to require Democrats and Republicans to come together around a common strategy rather than attacking one another.
Well,
I think going forward, we've got to find ways. I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah.
But well, I think, and also it means this working with the Europeans and Arab countries in the Middle East to take this on, and it's why I'm so disturbed by what we've seen the last few days from Donald Trump talking about weakening the European alliance in the interview with the Washington Post yesterday and the attacks.
Well, Duncan Hunter was just on trying to clarify those remarks.
Are going to make it harder for us to develop the coalition that's required for us to win.
What he meant was not spending as much money on NATO because the United States spends a whole lot of money there. I want to ask you guys about the images basically coming out of Cuba, where President Obama, you see him, he's going to a baseball game this evening in front of the image of Che Guevara, a Marxist rebel leader, and yet you see the images of what's going on in Brussels today. Larry, what are your thoughts on that? Should the president be back home right now?
Yeah, he really should. He should be sending a message, like I said, to Belgium. I mean, we've been Belgium's allies since before World War I. Our priority needs to be with strengthening Western civilization, not embracing a dictator in our backyard. Honestly, I think what's at play here is the president was feted when he ran 7 years ago. Western Europe loved him. He was a hero. He was going to transcend borders and parties. And he even got the Nobel Peace Prize. And I think by now, 7 years later, he's bored with all of that. He wants to stake out new ground, like opening up Cuba. That's what excites him. That's why you're seeing such a yawn from this president right now instead of some action.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it right there. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Simon Rosenberg and Larry O'Connor. We'll talk to you again.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.